Greetings, I am Zane. At 23, I embody the essence of living life according to my own rules. I am not enrolled in college, I am free from the constraints of a career, and I certainly do not possess any long-term aspirations. Each day unfolds in a series of small tasks, as I navigate a world of odd jobs, share moments with friends, and scrape together just enough to meet my rent, or, more accurately, the cost of my bed in the dilapidated hostel I refer to as home. While some may perceive my choices as a squander of time, I believe that youth is a chapter to be fully embraced, not confined. Last week, my friend Logan reached out to me with an intriguing opportunity. Hello, my aunt requires her fence to be painted. She will compensate you fairly, far superior to the mediocre efforts you're putting forth at the diner. Wealth has a way of commanding attention, my friend. I conveyed to him that I was on board. I had little anticipation. Most likely, it's merely an elderly woman residing in a time-worn house, accompanied by a fence that has seen better days. Yet, work remains work, and I am well acquainted with the art of wielding a paintbrush. The day arrived, sweltering and parched, with the sun lazily suspended above the drowsy neighborhood. I strolled along the serene streets, making my way to the location Logan had sent me in a text. The homes in this area exuded care, with their lawns meticulously groomed. Far beyond my reach, I felt out of place in this neighborhood, and deep down I was aware of it. As I arrived at the house, I came to an abrupt halt. She stood there, tending to the flowers that adorned the porch, gently watering them with care. I recall pondering, there's no chance this is his aunt. She appeared to be in her mid-30s at the most, clad in a straightforward white tank top and denim shorts, her long dark hair casually tied back. Lofty, elegant, self-assured, it was evident. She looked up and offered a smile, gentle yet inviting. "You must be Zane," she remarked. "My name is Vivien. Logan mentioned that you would be assisting me today." I stood still for a moment. I found myself needing to rouse my thoughts from a stupor. "Indeed, Zane. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance." She chuckled softly, as if she were aware of the impact she created. "Come, let me guide you to the location of the paint and brushes." The fence extended like a weary sentinel along the edge of her backyard, its wooden slats worn and pleading for a rejuvenating coat of paint. "Take your time," she advised me. "I prefer it to be executed correctly rather than hurriedly. I shall fetch you some lemonade shortly." With my supplies arranged, I immersed myself in the task at hand. The soothing cadence of the brush brought me tranquility. The sun blazed overhead, sweat cascading down, as the paint glided effortlessly across the heated planks. Occasionally, I caught sight of Vivien moving past the expansive bay windows, engaged in conversation on the phone, or absorbed in a book on the porch. After about an hour, she emerged, holding a chilled glass of lemonade. "You're doing a great job," she said, offering it to me with a smile. Surprisingly exceeded my expectations, to be honest. "Thank you," I remarked, savoring a generous gulp. "I suppose I must earn my keep, don't you think?" We engaged in a light-hearted conversation for a while. I discovered that she was engaged in remote work, providing consulting services of a certain nature. Alone in the world, I refrained from pressing for further information. The sun moved, stretching elongated shadows across the boundary of the fence. Engrossed in my tasks, I suddenly became aware of the familiar creak of the screen door once more. Footsteps approached from behind. "You know," she said softly, her voice a playful whisper, smooth and inviting, "were I to share your years, I would extend an invitation to you." I halted abruptly, brush poised in my grasp. In that fleeting moment, I questioned whether I had truly understood her words. I tilted my head just enough to catch her eye. Her expression remained inscrutable, only the slightest trace of a smirk, as if she had thrown down a gauntlet to gauge my response. A nervous chuckle escaped my lips as I wiped the sweat from my brow. "Is that truly the case?" She shrugged with nonchalance, her eyes twinkling with mischief. "However, I am not of your generation, so let us return to the canvas." In that fleeting moment, she turned and made her way back to the house. I watched her for a moment, the warmth of the day suddenly becoming overwhelmingly intense. In that fleeting moment, a singular truth crystallized within me. This was destined to be more than just another ordinary performance. The following morning, I stirred awake in my modest hostel room, the soft glow of sunlight filtering through the blinds. I gazed at the ceiling for a time, reflecting on Vivien's words from the previous day. Were I in your shoes, I would extend an invitation to you. It transcended the mere words of the sentence. The manner in which she had expressed it lingered in the air, playful and self-assured, as if she was fully aware of the response she would evoke in me. I brushed it aside and slipped into a faded t-shirt. A task awaited my completion. Nothing further. Upon my arrival at her abode, Vivien was already outside, tending to her plants with a gentle hand, adorned in a flowing sundress and sandals that danced with the breeze. She raised her hand in a gentle greeting as I approached the driveway. "Good morning, Zane." Prepared to take on the remainder of the fence. "Good morning. Absolutely, let's make it happen." I returned the smile. I moved with the same cadence as before, each brushstroke following the last. The sun ascended once more, casting its relentless rays as the parched heat enveloped the land. At the stroke of noon, Vivien appeared with a bottle of chilled water in hand. "I thought you could use this," she remarked, her eyes glinting with understanding. "Thank you. You are my lifeline," I chuckled, brushing the perspiration from my brow. Throughout the day, we maintained our distance, yet an undeniable energy lingered in the air between us. I found it impossible to overlook, and I was quite certain she sensed it as well. Each time I noticed her observing me from the porch or as she strolled past, I found myself pondering the extent to which this was deliberate. As the afternoon waned, I found myself nearing the final stretch of the fence. The task unfolded seamlessly, and truthfully, I felt no urgency to conclude it. I found great pleasure in being present in that moment. It was serene, tranquil, a stark contrast to the tumult of the adversarial or the lackluster gigs I typically navigate. I gathered the brushes and stepped back, allowing myself a moment to appreciate the creation before me. Quite satisfactory indeed. I pivoted to see Vivien lounging effortlessly against the back door frame, arms folded, observing me with that familiar, serene smile. "Is everything finished?" she inquired. "Indeed. It appeared quite impressive, didn't it?" I stated. She offered a nod of approval. "Your work was truly impressive. Surpassed my expectations. You have rightfully acquired your earnings, perhaps with a touch more than you anticipated." I arched an eyebrow. "Additional." She inclined her head ever so slightly. "Why not step inside for a refreshing drink before you head out? You are worthy of it." For a brief instant I came to a halt. The prudent decision would have been to graciously refuse and return to my familiar corner of the world, to the existence I understood. Yet, an undeniable force within me urged me onward. Playing it safe was never in my nature. "Absolutely." I stated it with ease. "What holds us back?" The interior of her home mirrored my imagination perfectly, contemporary yet inviting, featuring gentle, muted hues. Family photos artfully arranged, yet lacking any recent additions. A fleeting sight of an aged wedding photograph rested upon a side table, capturing my attention. It revealed all that I had not inquired about. Vivien offered me a glass of iced tea, gesturing for me to take a seat at the kitchen island. The kitchen featured a broad, open window, through which the late sun poured a gentle golden light across the counters. We engaged in conversation concerning the void and the entirety. I shared with her the tales of my various jobs, my aimless journey, and the joy I find in the liberty of living without a set plan. She absorbed the words, chuckled softly, and gave a gentle shake of her head. "You remind me of who I used to be," she said softly. "Were you once as reckless as well?" I playfully taunted. "Once, I held the conviction that life revolved around seizing moments rather than constructing barriers." I couldn't help but notice the irony woven into her words. A moment of laughter passed between us. She then produced a bottle of red wine. "Care to linger for a glass?" There was a moment of uncertainty. I wished to tread carefully. Her gaze was soft and comforting, a silent promise of understanding. "You are not," I nodded, and together we made our way to the living room. The wine glided effortlessly across the palate, while the conversation flowed with an enchanting ease. It was astonishing how effortlessly the conversation flowed between us. She was older, undeniably, yet everything about it felt natural and unstrained. As dusk deepened into darkness, the dialogue softened. We nestled together on the couch, a slight haze of inebriation enveloping us, yet acutely conscious of the unvoiced tension simmering in the air between us. Vivien placed her glass on the table and faced me. "Zane, you truly are a remarkable person. This isn't something I typically engage in. What should be done?" I inquired gently. "This?" she murmured, her voice barely rising above a whisper. In that moment, she leaned closer, her lips softly grazing against mine. I paused, but just for a fleeting moment. I pressed my lips to hers softly at first, then with growing assurance. Her hand brushed against my arm, while mine settled gently on her waist. I cannot recall the duration of our stillness in that moment. In that instant, the outside world dissolved, leaving behind a singular focus where nothing else held significance. The evening unfurled effortlessly, devoid of haste, inquiries, or commitments. We embraced the experience for what it truly was, a choice made together. As I stirred from slumber, I found myself enveloped in sheets that felt foreign to my skin, while the gentle morning light filtered through the partially drawn blinds. For a fleeting moment, I found myself lying there, gazing up at the ceiling, as the enticing aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafted in from the kitchen. Regrets eluded me, none. I cast a fleeting look at the vacant spot beside me before slipping out of bed, donning the jeans and t-shirt I had worn the night prior. The enticing aroma of brewing coffee guided me to the kitchen. Vivien stood barefoot, clad in leggings and a loose sweater, as she stirred cream into her mug. "Morning," I said, my voice carrying a rough edge. She lifted her gaze and offered me a serene, understanding smile. As the morning light filtered in, I found myself standing there, caught in a moment of uncertainty, unsure of the proper etiquette for the events that had unfolded the night before. She extended a mug toward me. "A warm cup of coffee." "Absolutely." We both took our drinks and leaned against opposite counters, savoring the silence for a moment. At last, Vivien found her voice. "I trust this isn't a pattern you believe I follow." I gently shook my head. "I do not." She cast her eyes toward the window, taking in the sight of the newly painted fence. "Zane, conversing with you feels effortless. Such occurrences have become quite rare for me these days." Uncertainty lingered as I contemplated my response. I simply inclined my head in agreement. Our words fell into silence after that. I departed soon after, not out of desire, but because it seemed the appropriate course of action. Neither of us articulated the events that had transpired. It was simply a given. Life resumed its usual rhythm, or at least the rhythm I had come to know. I took on a few shifts bussing tables, earned some cash doing yard work, and spent time with my friends at affordable dive bars. Yet, she lingered in my thoughts. One evening, roughly a week later, Logan and I found ourselves sipping beers on the cracked back patio behind the hostel. He spoke endlessly about work and girls, yet my thoughts wandered elsewhere. "Are you well?" Logan inquired, his gaze falling on my untouched drink. There was a moment of uncertainty. "Greetings. Regarding your Aunt Vivien." He let out a hearty laugh. "What of her?" I nonchalantly shrugged, attempting to maintain an air of composure. "What is her tale?" His tone shifted gently. "She has endured quite a lot, you know. Her husband departed a few years back. A truly dire circumstance preceded that moment. The man was a domineering figure, exuding an icy demeanor that left little room for warmth or kindness. Truthfully, it shattered her for some time. She has improved, yet she still tends to remain withdrawn." I remained silent, absorbing every sound around me. "What is the reason behind this?" Logan inquired, narrowing his eyes at me. I must confess, I was not entirely truthful. Within, a realization dawned. Vivien exuded a serene demeanor, her strong smile occasionally veiling a hint of sadness, revealing a composed yet sometimes distant presence. Everything fell into place. She had not merely experienced solitude in recent times. It seemed she had endured solitude for an extended period. The following afternoon, I found myself meandering along the same tranquil streets, making my way back to her home. It was not something I had anticipated. I convinced myself that my presence in the neighborhood was purely coincidental. Yet deep down, I knew that was far from the truth. I lingered at her gate for a full 2 minutes, weighing the decision of whether to knock. I hoped she wouldn't perceive any expectations from me or feel pressured to offer more than she was comfortable with. I rapped on the door regardless. Vivien swung the door open, clad in jeans and a simple blouse, her hair cascading loosely around her shoulders. Her expression flickered with surprise, but it lasted merely a heartbeat. "Zane, greetings. I happened to be in the vicinity and felt compelled to extend a greeting. I can depart if—" She gracefully moved to the side. "Do come in." We gathered around her kitchen table. She filled 2 glasses with chilled iced tea. This time, the dialogue took on a new hue, more profound. We engaged in a conversation about life, family, and the way she had drifted apart from her children following the divorce. They had matured and were residing in different states. I absorbed more than I expressed. She revealed herself in fragments, as if inviting my understanding while cautiously gauging the depths of her own disclosure. "I know I'm older," she said at one point, her gaze fixed on her glass. "But sometimes it's just nice to have someone listen without judgment." A smile graced my lips. "That is within my capabilities." Her expression softened as she leaned across the table, delicately placing her hand over mine. For what felt like an eternity, we remained in that stillness. I realized in that moment that what we shared transcended mere physical attraction or the pursuit of a long-held dream. It was straightforward. 2 souls, unburdened by the weight of loss, discovering an unforeseen connection within one another. I remained for the evening meal. We prepared a meal side by side. It was a straightforward affair, pasta and salad, but it seemed to embody the most ordinary, effortless evening I had experienced in months. I chose not to spend the night there. I embraced her at the threshold. She clung to me for a heartbeat longer than was required. As I strolled through the shadowy streets, making my way back to my part of town, an odd realization dawned upon me. After an extended period, anticipation coursed through me as I embraced the uncertainty of what lay ahead. Several days slipped by. I made an effort to keep myself occupied. I took on a few additional landscaping jobs and even assisted a fellow at the hostel with his move, yet my thoughts continually wandered back to Vivien. With each buzz of my phone, a flicker of hope ignited within me, yearning for it to be her. In most instances, it was not. By Friday, my patience had worn thin. I was aware that forming attachments was not in the cards for me. There were no labels, no commitments, yet an undeniable sense lingered within me, a feeling that our story was far from complete. Thus, I embarked on an endeavor I seldom undertake. Plan has been crafted. I gathered just enough funds to purchase a modest bouquet of vibrant, fresh flowers. Nothing extravagant, merely unadorned wildflowers. It seemed foolish. Uncertainty loomed over me, yet I chose to trust my instincts and forge ahead. I strolled down her street, my heart pounding more fiercely than I care to acknowledge. I paused at her gate, gazing at the blossoms, before I rapped on the door. The door creaked open. Vivien lingered in the soft embrace of her leggings and an oversized sweatshirt, her hair cascading loosely around her shoulders. Her expression transformed from surprise to amusement to confusion in the span of just 2 seconds. "Zane, greetings." I extended the flowers with a sense of unease. "I believe these might be of some use to you." She chuckled gently, a smile playing on her lips as she shook her head. "You are utterly infuriating." Yet she accepted the flowers, her gaze gentle and warm. "Step inside." I crossed the threshold. The air in the house carried a subtle hint of vanilla intertwined with the crisp scent of freshly laundered fabric. We took our places at the kitchen table, a delicate bouquet resting in a small glass vase that stood sentinel between us. A lengthy silence enveloped the room before she finally broke it with her words. "I didn't anticipate your arrival in this manner," she remarked. "I must confess, I was taken by surprise as well. However, contemplation has occupied my mind. I simply I felt the urge to converse with you. Vivien reclined in her chair, arms crossed over her chest, poised in anticipation. I understand that this likely wasn't meant to be significant. I embarked on my journey. I'm not seeking anything grand or intricate. I am not that person. I am aware of my youth. I understand that your experiences surpass anything I could ever fathom. However, I suppose it's essential for me to grasp our current position. I simply wish to avoid any mistakes in this endeavor. Whatever this may be, her expression transformed once more, veering into a realm that eluded my understanding. She gazed at the vase for what felt like an eternity before finally breaking the silence. "You are young, Zane," she murmured softly, "still in the bloom of youth, yet faced with the complexities of someone like me. My life is a tangled web of chaos. The weight of my past lingers heavily upon me. My children hardly engage in conversation with me. The remnants of my marriage linger, etched deep within, refusing to fade away." I remained still, allowing her words to settle around me. With a soft exhale, she let out a sigh. "At 23, you deserve to travel light, unburdened by the weight of another's struggles. It lacks fairness towards you." I inclined my head with deliberation. "Indeed, you are correct. It is not. However, I am not requesting to bear any burden. I simply want to express how much I enjoy our time together. I genuinely care to inquire about your desires." She offered a subtle smile, her eyes shimmering with a hint of glassiness. "What I desire." She let out a breath. "I desire simplicity. I seek a life devoid of turmoil, free from anticipation. There are no constraints. I wish to be free from the concern of whether you'll reach out or make an appearance. I hesitate to ponder whether I am past the point of this endeavor or if, one day, you might awaken to the realization that this was all a misstep." A smile graced my lips. "You seek authenticity, yet with a touch of levity." "Precisely. I am capable of accomplishing that task." We lingered in silence, the weight of the moment stretching out before us. Neither of us required to occupy the silence. Vivien extended a hand toward the glass of water, its surface glistening invitingly. "Surely you understand that we can't engage in anything too serious, correct?" I inclined my head in agreement. "I am aware. I truly mean it, Zane. Free from anticipation, one navigates the journey of existence. I embrace my own existence. We cherish what we possess in the moment of its presence. And when it concludes, we depart without a trace of regret." "Comprehend," I uttered. "Honestly, I believe that's precisely what I desire as well." Her shoulders eased into a state of tranquility. She extended her hand across the table, giving mine a brief, gentle squeeze. "Excellent." For a brief moment, I found myself concerned that you might utter something absurd, like expressing a desire to officially date me. We shared a hearty laugh. The tension that had hung between us dissipated in an instant. That evening, I chose not to remain. I embraced her at the threshold, a lingering embrace that conveyed all the unspoken sentiments. We were acutely aware that what we shared defied convention. It defied all reason, yet it proved effective. As I strolled back down her street, heading toward my familiar turmoil, an unexpected sense of stability washed over me. Neither of us was bound by any constraints. For the first time in what felt like ages, something vague finally found its clarity. Time stretched on, transforming weeks into months. My life remained wonderfully chaotic, juggling a series of unconventional gigs, finding refuge in a bustling hostel, gathering with friends at budget-friendly bars, and struggling to keep my phone alive. Yet Vivien emerged as a subtle, unwavering presence amidst it all. Our conversations never ventured into the territory of US. It existed without a label, devoid of any expectation. She never inquired about my whereabouts during my absences, and I never pondered whether she was involved with someone else. Our paths crossed when the timing was right. There were weeks when I found myself stopping by twice. At times, an entire week would pass in silence. It always felt perfectly natural. Occasionally, I would assist her with small tasks around the home, replacing a light bulb, securing a wobbly cabinet door, or hoisting boxes from her garage. At other moments, we would find ourselves on her back porch, leisurely sipping wine or iced tea, engaging in conversations that danced between the profound and the trivial. Vivien possessed an uncanny ability to instill a sense of tranquility within you, even amidst the chaos that surrounded your life. I began to appreciate the elegance of our uncomplicated connection. It did not introduce any complexities. On a Saturday afternoon, I arrived at her house following a day spent on a landscaping job. I found myself drenched in sweat, my skin coated in a layer of dirt, and I likely carried the unmistakable scent of grass mingled with gasoline. Vivien swung the door open, clad in an oversized button-up shirt and leggings, her reading glasses perched delicately on her nose. Her laughter erupted upon seeing me. "Your appearance suggests a battle with a lawnmower, and it seems the lawnmower emerged victorious." A smile spread across my face. "Perhaps." She gracefully moved aside, granting me entry. "Would you like to take a shower?" I shook my head in disbelief. "No, I merely came by to say hello. I have plans later on." She nodded with an air of understanding. "It's perfectly fine. I am not your girlfriend. Do you recall?" I flinched slightly, not due to the pain but because she spoke the truth. That had perpetually been the agreement. I strolled to the kitchen island, resting against its cool surface as she filled a glass with water for me. "Vivien." She lifted her gaze. I mentioned that I was contemplating a move in the near future. A modest apartment awaits across town. While it remains far from ideal, it certainly surpasses the experience of the hostel. I have been diligently setting aside resources. Her countenance remained unaltered. She offered a gentle nod accompanied by a warm smile. "Excellent. You are worthy of a life that transcends the confines of a bunk bed existence." For a moment I paused. "I won't be frequenting this part of town very often." I had my suspicions. Her voice carried no trace of sadness, merely grasping the essence. She was precisely the person I had envisioned her to be. Self-sufficient, rooted in reality, authentic. I savored a lengthy sip of water. This was never intended to last forever. "Was it truly?" I inquired. "No." She spoke in a gentle whisper. "That was the essence of its perfection." I placed the glass gently on the surface and made my way to her side. I pressed my lips gently against her forehead. With her eyes gently shut, a smile graced her lips. "Thank you," I murmured softly. "What is the purpose?" "For providing me with something wonderful without any pressure. For allowing me the freedom to be myself." Vivien's fingers brushed my cheek with a tender caress. "Thank you for rekindling that fleeting sensation of being desired, even if only for a moment." We lingered in that moment, suspended in time. Two souls intertwined, seamlessly bridging the voids in one another's existence, all without the necessity of definition. At last, I took a step back. "I ought to take my leave." She inclined her head in agreement. "I am aware." I approached the door, then paused to glance back one final time. "Everything will be all right. I have endured greater trials." Her lips curved into a smile. "Embrace your journey, Zane. Do not rush to make a decision." I returned the smile. "I shall not." With that, I stepped through the door. The sun dipped below the horizon as I strolled down the well-known street for the final time. I felt no sadness. Regret was absent from my thoughts. I experienced precisely the emotions we had vowed to share with one another. Complementary. It was not a romance in the conventional manner. No significant conflict occurred. No emotional farewell. No unexpected turn. Two souls intersecting at the precise moment of necessity, only to continue on their separate journeys. No attachments. Without remorse. Truly, that was nothing short of perfection.